I'm James of tvspro, and welcome to the third video of our Mavic series, DJI Mavic Full Instruction. First off, we want to thank you for investing in us and ultimately investing into your knowledge so that you can get the best flight experience possible with the DJI Mavic Pro. It's easy to get confused and convoluted in all of the options that DJI Tech has to offer you. Hopefully we'll be able to demystify that. And I'm going to not only work you through the app here, I'm going to give you some tips along the way, what I've discovered with resolutions versus frame rates, no color versus D-Log, and applying some LUTs. I will show you, if you've seen our second video of camera comparisons, how to apply the DJI logs into, or applying the LUT into that log, and show you some of the different ins and outs with the new intelligent flight modes. There are 5 new ones, relatively speaking, 2 of which that are on the Phantom 4 and 3 new ones that are only available on the Mavic. So with that, and also I want to say, if you have questions, please, as always, feel free to email me, jamesb@tvspec.com. I'm here to help answer any basic questions that you may have. If you have really some in-depth troubleshooting that you need, hopefully the dealer from whom you purchased your system will be able to offer that kind of extra support for you. So with that, I'm going to back it up here and go out to this main screen. On the bottom right, you've got me. This is where you can log in. We've seen problems with firmware updates and stuff like that. You're going to want to make sure that you are logged in with your DJI user account. And the other benefit to doing that is up here on the top left, you've got that picture of kind of a folded paper airplane. That is going to show you your logbook. It is law, especially if you're flying under Part 107 or exemption under Section 333, to maintain a log. Here you're seeing some of the stuff that I shot on the top. You've got Salt Lake City, flew a total distance of 5,000 feet. That's cumulative, so you could go a circle and that'll show you cumulative. 5-minute flight, 106 was my max altitude, and I recorded for about 1 minute and 40 seconds. And then it shows you some thumbnails of the video. That's log, obviously, in those last 3, and that one is not log. And the other cool thing that you can do, and DJI will use this as a reference for analyzing warranty claims and things like that. You can't hide anything. This, if you click on that, I can hit play and it is going to show you my exact flight, my flight distance, flight time, my height. All of that stuff is labeled up along the top there. And over here next to the scroll, I've got my exact latitude and longitude there. And if I need to, I've got this that icon right there with the controller. I pull that up and you can actually see my thumb movements, the joystick movements in relativity to how I'm flying. And there you can also see the flight path of where it's going. It's a lot of fun. And again, all of this metadata is kind of stored in the system. So when you send it in for repairs and warranty claims and stuff like that, DJI is absolutely using this. How did it crash? What were your thumb controls in relativity to what it did? If you are not logged in, you're not going to be able to see any of this stuff. And you'll notice along the bottom there, I've got a lot of dots. These are different systems. And because I do a lot of customer support and stuff like that, I've got a lot of different customer systems, and including the systems that our shop itself owns. So I'm doing a lot of flying through all of those. It saves all of that stuff. And actually, as I'm thinking about it, I want to go back and show you up in the top right, you've got that cloud. You can sync 1 month, 6 months, or all of those. And so it stores all of that stuff on DJI's cloud there for you. Kind of nice. So if I needed to, I could take my phone, if I've sunk my flights from my iPad, and review those same stuff on my phone if I've synced everything to there. Okay. With that, up on the top right, you've got that graduation cap. Many of you may be already aware of this. Tutorials. These are some videos, and I actually DJI has updated this. This is great. How to charge remote control. A few safety tips, and they've got some great tutorials and things like that that are available to you. We started doing these full instruction videos because a lot of people, our customers, and everything that we were selling system-wise, people were saying that DJI doesn't cover everything. What's this? What's that? And that's why we've ultimately started to do this. In this academy here, you've got some flight tutorials and some user manuals that are available there, as well as your flight simulator. And we have a DJI Intelligent Flight Mode video there on YouTube so that we can talk about course lock, home lock, waypoint flying, and point of interest flying and things like that. And we use this simulator to demonstrate how to do that. It's a great way to practice some of those flight modes without actually taking your system outside and with the potential of damaging it, right? This is a great tool for that. In this video, we're not going to be talking about those in-flight modes that we've already discussed in that previous video. This one, we're going to be talking about the 5 relatively new flight modes. Active track and tap fly, those are available on the Phantom 4, and then available only on the Mavic is gesture, tap fly, or not tap fly, I'm sorry, terrain follow, and tripod mode. That will come up here later in this video, and I'll show you how to do that. Unfortunately, gesture, terrain follow, and tripod, I can't really do in the flight simulator except for tripod. So this, I'll just briefly here show you. Your system has to be on in order for this to work, but you're going to start this up just like you would, which is both sticks down and inward. That is how you start up the props, and you can see there my props are started up. It knows that I'm in flight simulator mode, so my props don't start up here. It's not a bad idea to actually remove those props, just as a safety precaution. So I can increase my altitude a little bit using the left stick, and there I am. So I'm flying, and it is actually pretty darn accurate to how this responds outside in the real world. You can put it into sport mode and see how fast it goes there. At any moment, I can hit restart, and it will land it back again. Before I land it, I'm going to go over here to my flight modes. So as I take it out of sport mode, my intelligent flight modes now appear. You notice that when I hit on that sport mode, my intelligent flight modes icon disappears. When I put that back, that icon comes back. You can also access this by pressing down on your 5D joystick, and there are my flight modes. If I hit tripod mode, it tells me the flight speed and control sensitivity will be reduced for fine-tune control. So now as I go forward, it just really limits that. And as you're going to see in some of these videos that you're watching, the difference between all of those.
Okay, so to just give you an idea of sensitivity and speed, responsiveness, acceleration, everything on normal, sport, and tripod mode, I've got it in normal right now. So I'm going to go right stick all the way back as fast as I can. Decent braking. Decent braking, decent speed. Now forward, all the way right stick. Not near, so it's good. Decent braking, decent speed, okay? But I can tell you now, when I put it into sport mode, let me get it back up here. Stability is just amazing. Okay, now sport mode. Same stick, all the way back. Fast, and really a fast brake too. It's going so fast it has a harder time staying on path, you can tell. Now right stick all the way forward. That makes me nervous a little bit, but that is a really good brake. Even though it loses its path a little bit, it comes right back to where it was. Okay, so now sport mode off and into tripod mode. Right stick all the way back. Look at that. So I can guarantee you, you are not going to have to worry about props in your shot. And this is really going to improve that cinematic look that you're going for. That's all the way forward as fast as I can. That tripod mode, especially indoor flying that I've done, really helps out. If you do not have or don't need that quick responsive, hit record and put it into tripod mode, and that's gonna get you a really good cinematic look.
Okay, so now we're going to actually connect to the camera here. When you initially turn this on, you're gonna see this IMU initializing. It's best to not bump it, don't touch it, and just let it do its thing. In fact, if I click on that status bar and overall status, it is saying do not move the aircraft until the initialization is complete. What it's doing is warming that system up. The IMU consists of 3 parts: an accelerator, a gyro, and a compass. And I'm going to show you in the sensors where you'd be able to see those IMUs and what you need to know to make sure that your system is airworthy, right? So now that that's gone, I can pick this up and move it, do my compass calibration as needed. Speaking of compass calibration, and I'm going to show you exactly where I'm clicking. This up here is called your status bar, and it will, the color that is there that says ready to go will match the color of the flashing light on the rear of your craft. This is the same on all of DJI systems, okay? Green is good. You generally want a slow flashing green. If you start to get any yellows, it may mean that it's safe to fly, and it'll tell you safe to fly, but you'll notice up on the top, you may not have the 6 satellites or more that DJI needs to use a GPS locked position. So now as I hit or touch my status mode, this gives me a basic snapshot to make sure that my craft is airworthy. And we're gonna dig a little bit deeper, okay? So right now, flight mode, I'm gonna work my way down this list, is telling me that I'm in attitude. That's because it doesn't have a proper GPS lock. I'm indoors. It may go in and out. We may see it swap from attitude to GPS and go back and forth, okay? Compass, calibrate. Back in the Phantom 1, they said do a compass calibration every time you fly. Phantom 2 generation came out and they took that out of the manual. Phantom 3, and it was more like a recommendation. Phantom 3, they came back and put it back in there to say, we recommend you do this every time you fly. My rule of thumb, and now it's in there all the way, my rule of thumb is do a compass calibration if you are under these 2 rules. If you are changing the time of day, and the second rule is if you're changing your location. Our area, especially in Utah, with the mountains and stuff like that, I have no idea what magnetic interference those mountains could cause. So if I'm changing my location, I'm going to want to do a compass calibration. Besides that, it takes like 60 seconds. I'm going to show you the proper way to do that. Once I touch calibrate, it's going to ask me, do I want to do that? I'm going to say yes. Once I have that, as I pick this up, the color on the back of this is going to be yellow. You're going to want to do a full circle all the way around, and I'm going to move my bench to show you this. So I'm going to hold it out, preferably arm's distance away from your body, because you really have no idea what magnetic stuff, if you're wearing belt buckles or stuff like that, that could cause it. It's just a good idea. Plus a wide circle will give you the best reference possible for it. Once you make that first turn, that light goes green, and you're going to want to go nose down. And your app is going to tell you these things too, okay? So I rotate nose down, go around 360 counterclockwise, and that green stops. I didn't get a red, yellow, so it accepted that compass calibration. And besides the lights on the back, it will give you that error also. That is your aircraft status bar. It's a great tool to use, 1, when you need to do that compass calibration, and 2, to get a snapshot of everything that you need. So as we go along, I'm just going to move across this top here, okay? Any one of these is a button. I can touch that GPS and it goes to my main controller settings. The next one is my satellites. And right now I have 8 satellites. I'm surprised. I mean, it's telling me I'm green, ready to go. I've got GPS. That's surprising here indoors. So think of this like your cell phone bars, right? More is better. The front sensors, this is showing red because they're off. Typically for indoor flying, I'd recommend that you turn these front sensors off. And as we go along, I'm going to show you where to do that. My radio reception, HD is referring to the video transmission that is being sent. That is good. My battery is good, and it also tells me my 73% and that I'm at 3.98 volts. Talking about battery temperature, A good indication of that is also looking at that voltage. This is saying 3.98. I would not recommend flying if that voltage drops below 3 volts. That is a good indication that your battery is cold. Any one of these are buttons, including the 3 dots there on the right. I can touch those, and that's generally what I touch just to access this menu. But you'll notice those 3 dots are what are blue. But if I had touched the quadcopter symbol, that's what it highlights there as well. So you can touch any one of those. They're all buttons. They'll take you to the same place. And then I can touch any one of these going down, and it accesses those, okay? So moving across that top, we've explained that, and now I'm going to go into this and move my way down. Home point settings. Out of the box, it defaults to its home point setting. When does it set a home point? After that IMU, or inertia measurement unit, warms up, okay? That's this symbol, meaning you take off, it sets its home point when it gets those 6 satellites, and you go away. You hit the return to home button, and it will bring itself back and land at that point. But what if you've now moved from that location that you've taken off from? Every time you turn this off, it defaults back to its original go to its home point. So if you don't want it to go to the home point, but you want it to go to you, to the radio, then you need to set that dynamic home point. And again, that resets every time you turn it off. Multiple flight modes. You can turn this on or off from P positioning mode or S sport mode. And this is kind of nice that DJI has added some of these descriptions as a reminder for you if you forget. I can turn this on or off. Keep in mind, if I turn this off, and I'm going to go back out, and I can touch this symbol over here, or again, I can push my button here. If I try to access any of these flight modes, it will tell me you need to enable multiple flight modes. So if you want to access those, and I'm going to get out of that and go back into where we were, this needs to be on, okay? And if you don't have this on, this switch on the side with sport mode also won't work, okay? Return to home altitude. Out of the box, it defaults to 30 meters, which is roughly 60 feet. That will clear most trees and power lines, at least in our area. If you want to reset this, then you need to touch that and say, well, then I want you to go to 50 meters. And there, oh, I didn't hit enter. 50 meters, done. And now it sets that higher altitude. So beginner mode, I'm not going to get a whole lot into this. This basically limits things to 30 meters, so roughly 100 feet, up or out. I typically leave this off, but if you're just getting started, you may want to leave that on. It won't let you go out beyond that. Set maximum flight altitude. I typically leave this at its default 120 meters. That's roughly 400 feet. In the United States, you need to stay under 400 feet unless you've got clearance or COAs or various permissions through there, especially if you're flying in a populated area like a city, near helipads or ports or airports. Enable max distance. This will decrease your resolution, the video transmission on there, and bring it down to a lower quality to help boost some of this signal strength and get out there. But keep in mind, you do need to maintain visual contact at all times of your craft. So I typically, I don't even really worry about that. I leave it on, but in the ranges that I'm at, 1,000, maybe 2,000 feet, if I'm in an unpopulated area, I just really don't even worry about it. Same thing with that set max flight distance. They work. If I turn this off, then I can't set that max flight distance, okay? Advanced settings. This is where you will be able to change some of the sensitivities. Now, this is where you're going to go to customize these controls into a more personal preference. Sensors. This one is not to be overlooked. I look at this every so often. This is your IMU, or inertia measurement unit. Our phones have the same technology. If you hold your phone upright and then you rotate it, that screen orientates with it as well. That's basically because it has a digital gyro. Well, this isn't that different, only now you've got compasses, barometers, GPS systems, and all kinds of things that are working, so it's a little bit more complex. As I click on these, it's going to show my IMU, And just like the Phantom 4, this has got dual IMUs. So I have an IMU1 and IMU2. There's my accelerometer and my gyro. At the bottom, you're going to see excellent, good, or poor. I hesitate flying whenever it is good, let alone poor. Don't even think about it. But excellent, this is where you want to see them, and it shows you those graphs. And if I hit compass, I've got 2 compasses, and right now I'm getting almost 0 interference at all, so both of those are good as well. This is another location where you can calibrate compass, just like the status bar. If I go back over to my IMU, this is where I calibrate the IMU. When you do this, and for this purpose, I'm not going to do it, but if you see yellow or red, put it on a flat and level surface, keep it away from anything magnetic, don't bump it, don't touch it, let it do its thing. Hit calibrate IMU, it can take 5 to 15 minutes, and it's gonna reset and retell it what is flat and level, and kind of tune it to the magnetic deviation that is in your area. This again is part of making sure that your craft is airworthy. Go back to this and look at it. Particularly after crashes, once you've bumped something and it's taken a fall, these could be out of whack, and that's when you're going to want to come in and do a calibration of your IMU. So now that we've come back out of the sensors, if I lose my radio signal from the controller to the Mavic, this is where I can tell it, do I want it to return to home? Do I want it to land where it's at, or just hover? Why would I want it to hover? Well, if I've got it available, I can get in the car and maybe drive to it. I've got a map on here, so it wouldn't be that hard to go out and track it down. Out of the box, it is going to default to return to home. Generally speaking, that's what you may want to do. Hopefully you've taken that extra step and have made sure that you've set that return to home altitude at a clearance altitude. Smart return to home. Do you want to enable this or not? Now, DJI, the Mavic has a new precision landing system. What it's actually doing with the 2 cameras, you've got 2 cameras and 2 ultrasonic sensors that are on the bottom there, and they are actively tracking the ground. And as you take off, once you get to about 30 feet, the Mavic is actually taking pictures and video of the ground, so that in a return to home function, it is going to match pixel for pixel that photograph so that it will land, I mean, just real close from where it took off from. And I'm going to show you how this, we're going to test this, and the video that you're watching right now is going to see how accurate this is.
Okay, this is going to be a real test for precision landing. We're in a little bit of a low light situation. I'm right on top of this asphalt crack, right in between these 2 tire smudges. We'll see how close it lands. I've got the camera facing down and I'm recording. Start up the motors. And I'm going to go up 35 feet, because that is how the precision landing system is, that it records the ground up until 30 feet, and then I can move it at a horizontal distance. So there I'm at 40 feet. I'm going to move out here to my left. We'll just go out that far there. And now I'm going to hit my return to home button. So now it's going home. It's going to climb up to 60 feet. There we're at 62 feet, it says. Rotates and faces the way that it's traveling. And now it's coming home. Stopping there. And it is now on, now it is at a descent. I can stop, cancel, look at that. It faces the same direction that it took off from. And it's coming down, we're at 40 feet, 35, wow, it's coming down fast, 30 feet, 15, 10. Oh my gosh. It is really calculating, and it's analyzing that landing, make sure, and now I have to accept it and say, yes, go ahead and land. I don't know what the pickup was there at the end, but look how close that is. I was right here on this crack and in between these 2 smudges. That is the closest return to home landing we've ever seen.
Going over into the visual navigation settings now, I'm going to scroll back up to the top here. These stereo vision sensors, that's these ones up front. If you're flying this indoors and in some of the footages that you'll see in some of our various videos, I'm getting into some really tight corners through hallways and doorways, getting it close to. I've had a lot of fun with this. I've been flying it around. Some of the videos that you're going to be seeing, all around work, our showroom floor, our service department counter desk, our warehouse, down the hall. If these sensors are on, it really won't even go forward. It just stops. It's doing its job. So if you're flying indoors, you may want to turn these off, just like that, and it wants you to acknowledge, yep. And I would also recommend putting into tripod mode, depending on the spacing that you've got, to kind of dumb down the sensitivity of those controls. But, and again, not getting ahead of myself, but that enable vision positioning, the sensors on the bottom are still going to be active. I haven't kicked those off. I just kicked off these front ones, okay? The downward vision positioning system, for me, I see absolutely no reason why you would want to turn this off. It is going to give you very accurate information. Those two cameras and two ultrasonic sensors are constantly evaluating the ground. Okay, so moving down from the navigation setting and into the controller. This gimbal wheel speed, I prefer it at 50. This refers to the gimbal wheel up on your top left of the controller. As I adjust this, that camera is adjusting. Now I'm going to kick this up to fast, and you're seeing that camera move a lot faster. Remote controller calibration. This is if you're experiencing some inaccurate responses and some drifting and things like that. You can do a calibration, but this is going to tell us that we can't because this system is on. What it will ask you to do is to take your joysticks and go in 360-degree circles, and it's basically calibrating those. So if you experience some drifting or some inaccurate movements in response to your manipulation, that's where you're going to want to go. Stick mode, we already covered that. Mode 2 versus mode 1 and whatnot. Button customization. You've got a C1 and C2 button here on the back. I have customized my C1 to center focus. What does that do? Let me pan my camera back up. Now it's really slow. Now I wish it was fast. But typically when you're flying, you want it slower. So if I hit my C1 button, bing, it just focused into the middle. That's how I customized it. If I go back into here and I touch that, I've got multiple options here. I can cause it to turn on my front LEDs, my auto exposure, do I want it to lock or unlock, advanced camera settings, forward or down. That one's not bad, and that's why I've programmed my C2 button into there. I mean, you can tell this thing to do all kinds of different stuff, okay? I like that center focus, and then my C2 to go down and up. Makes it really easy. So rather than taking the time that I did just a minute ago to bring it back up, I could have just pushed my C2 button. Okay? Customize those that you're liking. They're available there to you. As I mentioned before, there are some Mavic videos out there where they're stating that, for example, this 5D joystick, and they call it 5D because up, down, left, right, and push or depress. That's why they call it 5D. And that it's not usable because it belongs with the goggles that DJI hasn't released yet. That's not true. Here's the system right here. I can tell my upper to zoom in, zoom out, or any of these. Look at that. I'm boring my cameraman. He's on his phone.
We're ready to go?
The Mavic cannot have multiple radios paired with it. To do that, you need to get into the Inspire series. If you have a damaged radio, or for whatever reason this becomes unpaired, down at the bottom it says linking remote controller. You would want to turn your system on, turn this on, hit linking remote controller, and then it's going to tell you you have 60 seconds to push the linking button on the side. That is over here on this side, and as I pull this down, now I've got my micro SD card, my linking button, and my Wi-Fi versus RC button. You want to make sure that that switch is on RC if you are operating with this radio. If you are flying with Wi-Fi and want to control it directly with a smart device, then you will switch it to Wi-Fi mode. But you want to use like a paperclip, push that linking button, and then it will sync back up with your radio controller. So now continuing down the list, we're going to go over into HD. This is where it is referring to your image transmission system. This channel mode, If you're unfamiliar with frequencies and things like that, I really would leave this alone.
So here I'm going to show you, if you want to fly your Mavic with a tablet or a phone or any smart device, how you can do it directly with that tablet to your Mavic via Wi-Fi. So the first thing you need to do is go to where your micro SD card is. You'll see a switch, RC and Wi-Fi. Switch it to Wi-Fi. The other thing you're going to take note of is right here on your front right leg, you have a QR code as well as it says your Wi-Fi SSID and your password. On this device, I've already entered that password into here, so I don't have to do it again when I connect to it. So next step, turn it on. As a tip, if you decide it's on RC and you decide, well, I want to go to Wi-Fi, while it's on, you can't flip that switch and go to Wi-Fi. You do need to power off the Mavic. It's an initializing thing, so it has to be off when you flick that switch. Now I'm going to come closer to you so you can see my tablet, and I'm going to go to Settings, Wi-Fi, and there's my Mavic. As I touch Mavic, this is where you would enter that password. Like I said, I've already looked at that leg and I've entered that password. I am connected. So now I'm going to go back out to my DJI Go app. Now I'm going to go back out to my DJI Go app. And there I've got my camera settings. It's giving me a little bit of tutorial and showing what those joysticks look like when you place your thumbs on there. They are not appeared until you actually touch it, and then they appear, and they divide it down the middle. So one right stick and left stick. It's actually really cool. I'm ready to go GPS. I've already done a compass calibration from the previous flight. So now same rules apply, just now with the tablet. So I'm going to use my auto takeoff here and say take off. It's going to come up and hover at about 4 feet. Now I just put my thumbs on there and I'm going to hit record and yaw around and get a good look at us. There we are. I'm flying the Mavic with my tablet. Man, this is so different though. So there I've initiated auto land. I have to acknowledge that it is landing. And there you go. It's not ideal, but hey, you can fly it directly with your tablet.
So this is showing us the health of each one of those cells. 3.8, about 3.9 through all the way across. It'll tell you your health. So I've got a total of 11.6 volts and a temperature under 40 degrees Celsius, which is fabulous. My remaining power is 2200, and I've charged this particular battery one time. It will remember those charges, and this system will most likely ask you to bring that battery level down below 5% every 10 cycles. As a side note to lithium polymer, this isn't a DJI thing, this is a lithium polymer thing. Long-term storage, it's recommended to keep your lithium polymer batteries below 50%, preferably below 40% for long-term storage. What do I mean by long-term storage? 3 weeks plus. You will get a longer life and more cycles out of that battery if you keep it. So if you know you're not going to fly, when you're done flying, don't immediately take it to a charger. In fact, if it's warm, wait till it's cooled down before you charge it. Now, DJI's intelligent batteries will have a memory, and if you have not used this battery in 10 days, it will automatically kick on and start to deplete under that 50%. But again, I'm not that type of guy that wants to rely on those systems, so I typically, for long-term storage, will leave them under 40%. Critical low battery warning. This, I haven't touched these, as default out of the box is set to 10%. That is basically your second warning. Your first warning, low battery warning, is set to 30%. At 30%, it will ask you, a window will pop up, I am at 30%, low battery warning, do you want me to come home? And you have to acknowledge by sliding across there. If you don't want it to, it starts counting down. When this window pops up, you can acknowledge it right then, or starts counting down, and if you don't say cancel, it will just initiate that. In that moment, you can still hit your pause button. Now moving down to the camera and gimbal. Gimbal mode. A lot of people have this question. They see FPV or first person video and they're like, yeah, I want first person video. That's not what it means. It locks the motors when you put it in FPV mode. So when you are flying, the gimbal relative to the copter is typically staying still, right? Well, you put it in FPV mode, and now those gimbals lock, so now it rotates with there. If you're going for that Superman effect down a canyon or something like that, then yes, that's what you're going to want. Otherwise, leave it to follow, and if you track it, it will just stay still regardless of your motions, okay? And last point on here, onto the general settings. Measurement unit, if I want, I can go into metrics, either meters per second or kilometers per hour. I'm in the United States. I like them imperial. Okay, so enable hardware decoding. This is an internal thing that you're really not going to know a whole lot about, except if you are experiencing some poor signals in your video transmission, you may want to turn this off. It's all about camera processing and how things are being recorded versus how things are being transmitted. Personally, I have had no problems in the 4 days, though, that I've been navigating with this thing and just leaving it on. It defaults to on. Personal preference, you can turn that on or off depending on that transmission signals that are going on. Peak focus threshold. I forgot that the DJI Mavic has this feature. What it does, if you notice at the screen, I've got a normal screen there. It's great, right? Well, if I come over here back and do 90%, now look at our editing bay. It's red. It's peaking. It's telling you if you are in focus. So there, I'm in focus. There, it's out of focus. It's focused on the wall, so the red goes away. If I click on Jake again, look, his body is outlined in red. Brilliant. Why didn't anybody else think of this? That's focus peaking, okay? Enable manual focus. This is only available on a Mavic and an Inspire X5 or X5R. I'm going to show you what that does. So I've enabled it. If I go back out here, yes, I can click on focus and it's focusing. But up at the top right, you've got autofocus and manual focus. If I touch that, it now switches to manual focus and it brings up my wheel. Now, if you have flown with an Inspire X5 or X5R, this looks familiar. I can drag it all the way down and everything's in focus, or I can bring what is in focus that I want. This really adds a professional level to the Mavic. I can't believe that they've added this to the Mavic. If I want, I can touch that back again, go back out to autofocus, touch, and it focuses back again. That is manual focus. If you are having problems with autofocus, this may be the better way to go. Or if you're trying to get some good depth of field and some professional looks and you're intentionally trying to get something blurry as opposed to something out in the foreground in focus and you don't want it to adjust, the manual focus may be a better way to go. Okay. Live streaming. This is a fun one. So select live broadcast platform. We're going to do Facebook. So here we are. We're logged in and we're going to go live and test this video feed. Describe your live video. This is DJI Mavic Live with a capital V. No, there we go. Go live. 3, 2, 1. Would like to access your microphone. Okay, there we go. System message, start live stream. There we go. So hey, this is a test. I've got a DJI Mavic in my hands here, and I've got my tablet here as well, showing the live feed, and we're doing our DJI Full Instruction video right now that will be available here in a few days. And as part of that instruction, we wanted to show how to go live. This could be up in the air right now. In fact, let's just fly it. Let's just fly it. Hey, we're live. We've got everything that's blowing around in the studio. Mavic is being awesome. And
and we're gonna cut it, and I'm gonna land it. There, landed it, and watch our video. Hey, that was fun. That was a successful Facebook Live. That's great. Blooper reel. Don't want to crash live, so I landed on the ground rather than trying to land it on here. Just safety precautions. Show flight route. Down here at the bottom right, I've got my map. If I touch that, it swaps picture with my map. As I fly, it will show you those maps. At the beginning of this video, I showed you how it retraced, and you could see that line of that map, or my flight route. Do you want it to show that, or do you not? Total personal preference. It's not a bad tool if you were trying to, let's say you flew a perfect route through something, like on a golf course. You were shooting some holes on a golf course, and you forgot to hit record. If you had traced or made this option available to show the flight route, well, now you could fly that same route and hit record this time. Calibrate map coordinates for China mainland. Sorry, doesn't apply to you. Cache map in the background. If you want it to save metadata of your cache maps and stuff like that and flight routes, you can enable this. I don't like that metadata getting boggled up, and just it will slow everything down. So I don't. And if you do cache it, there is a clear flight route and you can get rid of those, okay? This is where it is getting into a little bit more advanced of a video, and so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. But unlimit areas. If there are areas like an airport, I have been authorized in certain occasions to fly at various airports. DJI, through their no-fly zone team, you can apply to unlock areas. This unlimit area is where you're going to go, and they will allow you under certain conditions to unlock a particular area. Again, this is advanced, and we're not going to really get into that. That is with this geo system. If you turn this geo system off, be prepared for some pretty serious repercussions. That geo system is there to protect you. We recommend that you don't turn it off, and even if you do, there's still a lot that you can't do anyways. It's just programmed into there. Cache video during shooting. This is another thing. I kind of like to see it. It's set to 2 gigs, as you can see, is the largest video cache capacity. It starts to erase stuff as you go along through some of your flight logs and things like that. It's not something that I'm too worried about, but again, if you don't like stuff being boggled up, then you can erase that cache if you want to, and clear cache automatically, and that's what I have set, so that it doesn't keep on building up. It will just keep my most recent stuff and dump the oldest cache for your flight routes. Flight logs. This is showing just a snapshot without the thumbnails and anything on there, as it does more detail in the flight log. If you want, you can clear those flight logs as well. And then this is your basic stuff, the device name. This one is called the TVS Mavic 1. And about, this will show you the versions of your app, your aircraft, as well as your controller. And if you need to know the serial number on your device, yeah, it's not on the back here. It actually shows you that serial number here. Where else to go? Okay, so now we've gone across all the way at the top. We're going to move ourselves down, and this is the easiest stuff. We've gone through the hardest stuff. This is going to cycle between your camera and your video. Okay, so now I'm in video mode, now I'm in still mode. You do not have to be in video mode to shoot video. I can hit the record button up on the top left. If I want to snap a picture, I can hit the shutter button on the top right. This is just if you are accessing different menus. Some of these options, as I click here, will change depending on what I have selected here. I really don't even worry about that since they've added these buttons. Back in the Phantom 3, they started adding these buttons, so it's really not something that you need to worry about. But it's there if you want to cycle through there. Obviously, in the middle, that is my start, stop, record, or my shutter button. And then into these menus, it defaults to show you on the video side, auto or manual.
I typically leave these in auto. If you want to, feel free to go to manual, and now I've got full. I can go from 100 to 3200 ISO, but be careful as you play with that sensitivity. You could get a lot of noise in there. And then I can adjust my shutter speed, and obviously as I adjust my shutter speed and my ISO, it will show me an exposure value equivalent to there. As a side note, if I go back to auto and I come back out of here, this top wheel, as I move it, look at my exposure value up here. It is changing that exposure value, and so it is going to adjust my ISO and my shutter speed based on those settings there. That's what you can use that for. Go back into here. So I've got the exposure value back to 0. If I go to camera, this is now showing me my video size. We'll go 4K at 30 frames. I can, if I go down to 720, get up to 120 frames per second. If you're, let's say, shooting a waterfall and you want that slow cascade looking, you're going to want a high frame rate. The standard on most movies that are released in the movie theater is about 24 frames. We have shot a lot of this stuff in Ultra HD at 30 frames per second, at 2997. This is all personal preference. Both of them are 60 megabits per second, H.264, just with a .mov or an MP4 wrapper. I haven't noticed a difference in those. Total personal preference as to what you're using. If you're, though, as a side note, using a PC, you might want to stick with MP4 rather than MOV. NTSC or PAL, if you're out in Europe, PAL, if you're in the States, NTSC, that's pretty common. White balance, this is actually pretty intelligent. I do very little with it, but from the results and things that I've tested, it's actually pretty good. So if you're on a bright sunny day or you're looking for that sunny look, put it to sunny, cloudy, incandescent, get different looks, and you can customize that Kelvin or your white balance to get it to where you want it if you don't feel that auto white balance is doing the job that it should. Style, these are your picture profiles. I am a video shooter and less of a photographer, so I am not really going to dive into this stuff. Color, this is where I changed some of the log modes that we were playing with in our second camera comparison video. There's that D log, okay? You'll notice that it is flattening everything. It's different from RAW in that it has gone through the debayer process, but those colors have been flattened. The good news is that the data is still there. It just really hasn't been set a value, like the color green. It knows if something is green or blue or red or whatever, but it hasn't set, I guess the better word for it is a saturation. In this next little segment, what you're looking at is going to see us working through DaVinci Resolve and applying those LUTs that we used before in the second video to those DJI logs that were shot. So here I'm going to show you how we apply DJI's LUT to the log modes, and for this example we're going to use the Mavic's log for this. So right here we're on DJI's website. We've gone to the .com, and I am going to go to drones. I'm not going to click, I'm just going to hover, and then go over to Inspire 1 is where I know to find it. And then as I scroll down, right there in the middle, you'll see downloads. Then there on the left-hand side, you're going to see softwares and drivers, and you've got some for PC and some for Mac. I'll show you on a PC as well for this one. We're going to show you on a Mac. So down in this log mode with the PC, it really doesn't matter whether you use Mac or PC download for this LUT. It's a cube file. It'll work regardless of the platform that you're using. So I'm going to click on that zip file. Wait for it to download. So here we need to extract from the zip file the cube files. Okay, so now I've got these exported out of the zip file folder, and now I need to go apply these kind of into the back end of things. So on this other window to the left here, I'll show you how I navigated. So I'm in the Mac, and I go to Library, and then you got to go to Application Support, and then scroll down, and then you'll see Blackmagic Design, And then in DaVinci Resolve, down there's a folder kind of in the middle there with a LUT. These are where all their LUTs are, including RE and some Blackmagic LUTs. And we're just going to take this whole folder and drop it over into the LUT folder over here. When you do that, as I just did, you're going to want to rename that file DJI. It'll be a lot easier for you to find it later on. So now that I've got that in there, I can go over to Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve. I've got that open here. And I've already selected this Mavic log file and have dropped that down into my media. So now I'm going to click on Edit, bring that down into my timeline. Now that I've got it into my timeline, I can go start coloring. So we're going to click on the color. And then I need to apply this LUT. Okay, so I need to click on the node. And from there, I'm going to do a right click and go to 3D LUT, and there you'll see the DJI folder there with the LUTs. For this example, you're welcome to play with these. I'm going to use that top sRGB LUT, and I do need to remind, I'm skipping ahead of myself a little bit. That DJI folder will not show on that LUT until I go down to the Gears tab down here, Settings, and there on the left I've selected Color Management, and then in the middle I click on Update Lists, and this is going to update some of those back-end those cube files that we've already added into there. And when it updates, then at the bottom, I click on Save, and that is how I got that DJI folder to actually show up when I click on the node for the 3D LUT. Okay, so I'm going to select this top one here for our example, and it applies that LUT. Now, it's going to apply some basic coloring and things like that. Obviously, that's what the LUT is. And from here, you can get into your color wheels. And I'm going to be able to lift some of my offset here if I need to, because it's a little bit darker than how I like it. If you want, then you can get into some of the curves and things like that. You can mess around with this as much as you like. But for this example, this works pretty darn good. The color coming out of that Mavic with the LUT, I'm going to apply a little bit of a curve here, brighten that up a little bit, and there you go. That is applying DJI's LUT to DJI's log through DaVinci Resolve. Okay, and here I am on a PC. I've already gone ahead on the downloads page, downloaded that DJI log, and then here it is in my downloads. I have extracted from that zip file, and there are my cube files. And I have already copied them into the program data file. The easiest way to find this on a PC for me was to simply click on the C drive and then search LUT. You want to make sure, and the other reason why I'm doing this is because there is a dot LUT and a LUT. Do not put it in the dot LUT. It won't work right, even though it looks like the location is still the same. When you click on LUT, I took those cube files, renamed or created a new folder for DJI, and copied those cube files in there. Then with DaVinci Resolve, I can go into a new project here and go find the file that I'm going to use. I'm going to use a St. George file here. I know that there's a log. This first file will work just fine. Drop that into my media and then go to Edit. Drop this into my timeline. Again, you'll want to make sure that after you do this, you need to go down into the Tool or Gear, Color Management, Update Lists, and then click Save. I've already gone ahead and done that. So now when I right-click here, 3D LUT, so the image that you're seeing over here is a log from actually an X5, H.264-bit shot and log, and there I'm going to apply DJI's LUT, and there you can see it's actually really good color straight out of there. But again, you can play with some of these offsets and lifts to brighten it up just a little bit.
A lot of the times I like to do a little bit of curves here and just get that contrast just about right.
Hopefully that makes it clear for you. D-Cine-like is similar to log, but it's not quite as flat. Personally, I haven't shot a whole lot in it. I do like some of the looks of the log and applying those LUTs and messing around with the colors. That's the purpose of log, is to give you a little bit more freedom as to saturation, exposure, highlights, gains, and things like that. But when you're in none, that data, it shows you. It's basically applying a LUT and is showing you values. So any of the adjustments that you're doing, you're really just kind of masking things. You're not able to set your own values. There are lots of other color options, black and white or vivid. You may want to play with vivid if you're really wanting some, say you're on a golf course and you really want that green to pop, this may be a good look. If you're out at the beach and you want some really drastic blues, these are just different color spaces that they've set and have increased saturations on different color levels. If you want to, and you're okay with spending a little bit more time in your workflow, then go ahead and do D-Log, work through DaVinci Resolve, apply some LUTs, and play with those settings. So there, you can see we've hit 29%, and it's giving us that low battery warning. So if we were flying, that would pop up, and it would say, I'm going to come home, and you'd have to cancel it, just to show you what it looks like with that low battery warning. So now working our way across the bottom. Vision positioning system. This is this downward system, and it's going to tell you what altitude it is ring. If you go too low, you may get an NA, and if you go too high, then you will get an NA. Vertical speed. This is your vertical speed indicator. It's going to tell you, and you'll see an arrow, whether you are ascending or descending and at what rate. As a tip, I wouldn't recommend flying or rather descending faster than 8 miles an hour. That's a conversation for another time, but it creates some turbulence and an uncontrolled descent. Horizontal speed, that's its velocity. As it's moving forward, it will tell you. In some of the tests, I got it up to 44 miles an hour. I did have a tailwind. Turning around and flying into that tailwind, I still was able to maintain about 39 miles an hour. This is my height, basically altitude, and that is relative to its home point. So if I take off, it is going to tell me that I'm 100 feet from where I took off from. But then if I fly and my terrain goes down, it's still going to read that I am at 100-foot altitude. So it's not an AGL, air to ground level, accurate from the ground as it is continuously flying. It's based on what it was at from its home point or takeoff point. And then my distance, that is my horizontal distance from where it took off from. How far am I away from its takeoff point? And then this is basically an artificial horizon. It marks which way is north. The craft shows you which way it is facing relative to north. So if I look at this, yeah, my camera is aimed in a northeastern angle, and that's exactly what that is showing us here. As I rotate that camera, or the copter, you're seeing it. So there I am, true north in that way. And then the blue and the black, well, that is showing me my attitude. So as I dip it down, I have a negative attitude. So it's acting like it's going down to the ground, or a positive attitude rolls side to side. So this kind of gives you a good impression as to what the attitude and direction is of your flight. This can come in real handy. If you lose it and you're paying attention to this, then you'll know, well, I was flying in this direction. And the other thing that could help you again is knowing or watching your map, because it marks your home point and you could relatively see where it's going out that way for it. So now let's talk intelligent flight modes. Again, I can depress this or I can touch that over there. Let's show you some of those intelligent flight modes.
I just don't know how they're getting the range out of this little controller. I don't get it. I mean, it's like do 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 do. It's like what it is. So as mentioned previous, we do have another YouTube video that we made roughly about a year ago when the Phantom 3 came out with some intelligent flight modes. So course lock, home lock, point of interest, waypoint flying, and follow me. If you are looking for those flight modes, you're gonna wanna click on this link here and that'll take you to our other video. For this video, I've got the DJI Mavic, and we're going to talk about the 5 new flight modes that came out with the Phantom 4, 3 of which are exclusive to the Mavic, which are gesture, that's Mavic only, terrain follow, that's Mavic only, and tripod mode, that's Mavic only. And the other 2, active track as well as tap fly, those are cross-platform and available on the Mavic as well as the Phantom 4. Gesture, it changes it to active track mode because it has to track in order to do this. So I'm going to put the phone down. It's tracking me right now. The camera is tilting up and down. You're not going to be able to see this because it's not recording. So I'm going to gesture. So it's active tracking me, and then I'm going to do this in front of my face. Can you see those red lights? Let's do it again. It worked. It took a photo. It's tracking me. Photo! Okay, we're gonna do another one. Last one. Here we go. Tracking me. That's great. Okay, that's gesture. Okay, active track. Go. It's tracking me.
So what I did here to initialize the active track mode, I took my finger on my tablet and drag and drop, basically highlighted myself, and when it recognizes an object, it will go green and the words go will appear. Touch the word go and it will start to follow you.
That actually tracks better than the Phantom 4 because it pans around, tilts that camera, and then keeps on following. Like that. What's nice about any of these intelligent flight modes, especially in tight areas like this, when I'm using tap fly and it's just flying straight path, in any of these intelligent flight modes, you can always hit pause, and basically it's stop. You can use the stop button that appears over here as well. So if we turn it around and do the same thing, say tap fly, go. That stop button and the pause button are the same thing, but it's kind of nice because you can feel it with your thumb, so you don't have to look on your phone to where it is. You can just feel it with your thumb and know that at any point you can hit stop. Kind of nice. Okay.
Tripod mode is actually the easiest of all the intelligent flight modes. Once you initialize, as previously discussed in the video, it really desensitizes these controls. In the past, it's been really difficult to get some really smooth movements to add a cinematic quality to it. Tripod mode is perfect to get those smooth shots. In terrain follow, you need to designate your altitude before you tap on that app. It can't be a maximum of 40 feet.
So my left thumb is not going to correct the altitude.
And it will maintain that altitude and follow the terrain.
Look at that.
But keep in mind, it gets really close because I'm low.
Don't you dare hit that ground. Oh, that footage is gonna look amazing.
But if I had started at a higher altitude, it would not have gotten that close. No higher than 40 feet. Hopefully that clears up some questions that you've got about those new intelligent flight modes. For those other ones, as I've mentioned before, you can click on this link and it will take you to our intelligent flight modes. Thank you again for investing in this video. Man, that was a longer one. Hopefully you stayed all the way through for us, and hopefully it answers all of the questions that you've got, at least majority of them. We welcome your feedback. We look forward to it. If you've got questions, feel free to email me, jamesb@tvspec.com. I can help answer some of the basic questions, and if I've forgotten to include some of the instruction in this, I can help answer that for you. If you're looking for some real detailed troubleshooting, as I've mentioned before, hopefully the dealer from whom you are purchasing your system offers you that support. We look forward to earning more of your future business and giving us that opportunity to earn that. Thank you for doing so. And as a reminder, please feel free to subscribe. I've got our link button. Oh, that's definitely our cue. We need to, it's getting into the really low battery warning. Yeah, low battery on the radio. That is our cue. Good luck and happy flying.